Hey guys, Kid Burn One here with the Cinderella Girls deck profile. This is the version I've been playing ever since the restriction list came out at the end of 2016 or 2017, early 2017 now. This version kind of goes back to the level 1 Minami game and a lot of the old stuff from the first set with a little splash of the new stuff for tech options and things like that. Of course, if this came out in English, I'd probably just straight up play unbanned TP because TP is just a brain dead deck for the most part, so it's really hard to mess up and get in situations with that deck that you can't get yourself out of. But anyway, let's get into the deck here. This is the full deck. As you can see, it's kind of the old shell from the original like blue splash red build from the first set. We're actually playing Ronco level 3s in this one instead of, I know a lot of decks like to play the new, I forget her name, but the Smile, I believe, combo with the Restander. I think that build is pretty good, but for the way I built this deck, I prefer to have mostly a level 3 game that's like all blue because of how my back row is going to be working in this set. And then also, I like the fact that Ronco costs no stock for her combo, and she is also a healer. Let's get into the level 0 game. On the left there are all the level 0 beaters there that we use for the most part. We have the Kanade runner there. It's good. It dodges level 0 bombs and stuff like that, and it gets bigger if you have 2 or less stock. It becomes a 3-5 runner that runs the center only. It's a good way to plus early and then also kind of force yourself to level up quicker than your opponent, which in this case is a pretty good thing since sometimes your level 1 game can't really beat everything at level 1. So it's better to try to get as much advantage as you can early so you can transition into a really smooth level 3 game. Next we run 2 level 0 bombs. They just kill level 0s, and then also if your opponent plays a climax, you can choose to send them the stock, which is really good to dodge your opponent's on reverse effects at 0 and even at level 3 in some cases if your opponent like clears their field. On the bottom there we run 4 brainstormers. It gets 500 to center, which the power is negligible, and it's a pay 1 tap, mill 4, every climax, salvage 1. Pretty decent. It helps us fill up our waiting room too and burn us through the deck more, especially since we have some interactions with the waiting room in this deck. Everything on the left there is basically our tech choices here. So we have the one of on play ditch a climax, salvage a character. Since we run blue gate and book, it's really easy for us to clutter our hand with climaxes. So that's one good way to fix our hand whenever we get flooded with climaxes. A second effect is when this card's damage is cancelled, you can choose to send this as stock. So again, another way for us to randomly build some extra stock towards late game if we need it, or even mid or early game. Next we play one of the Alice. She's on play, reveal top card. If it's a music character, add it to hand, then discard one. The second effect is discard a music character from your hand, then draw a card on play. Both effects are really strong, especially when you do the first effect first and you reveal climax that you might need. Then you can ditch a character and just get the climax that you need from that draw. Or even in this case, we do play a couple events in this deck, so sometimes when you see that event, it's advantageous of you to just get the event into your hand, because it makes it really hard for your opponent to kill you later on, and also might make their attacks kind of awkward. Last we play this one of, I believe her name, I forget her name all the time, I think Rin, or not Rin, I forget her name, but anyway, she's like 2/5 on attack, give another music character or whatever, 500 times the number of music characters, so you can buff something 2k on attack, which helps us at our level 1 game and sometimes level 3 game even. Next, the bottom 4 there, that is the main part of the deck that makes the deck super consistent compared to before. We run 2 of the Komeis to help us dig for the climax we're looking for. It makes it so at level 1 and level 3 we're always consistently hitting our climaxes when we're searching for it. And then we also run 2 of that yellow card, which is on play, pay 1, ditch a climax, salvage a climax. So whenever Kome whiffs and you get the wrong climax, you still have the possibility of, if you hold on to this card, play it and then get the right climax by ditching the wrong one you had. And then the second effect of that card, which also helps at 1 greatly, and it's probably one of our major back row cards for the most part, is tap 2 characters, give your character 2k. This 2k lets us beat most things at 0 if it comes down to it, if we have it at 0. And then also our level 1 game can usually beat almost anything with the climax combo, and so it guarantees more of our level 1s going off. And especially one of our 1-0 Minamis that gets really big, it can potentially beat level 3s and stuff at level 2 for the early plays. Onto our level 1 game. Like before, we play the Minami climax combo. Climax combos with a blue gate. It's when this card, when there's a climax in the field against 1500, so it just becomes 106k, and then it becomes 7k with the climax, and has a climax combo with that effect where when the battle opponent gets reversed, you can look at up to top 4, add a music character to the hand, and discard the rest, and then give a character 2k. This card is sometimes not strong enough. That's why we do run the tap 2 give something 2k, or the on attack give something basically 2k. It buffs it up enough that it can beat most things at 1, and we don't have to worry about counters. But this also buffs other characters. So if you play like 2 or 3 of these, you can set up where like one character gets 4k in power buff, and then it just beats whatever's there. So it's a really easy way to kill early play level 3s in some cases where their field has things your Minami can kill. Next, we run 4 of the 1-0, those are like My Daily Stars or something Minami, I believe. On play, it gets 500 power for every music character you have, so it becomes a 1075. It's the last card you play, and usually with a 2k buff, you can beat everything your opponent generally plays at 1 and occasionally at 2. Then on top right there, we do play one of level 1 bombs or suiciders. That's basically all it is there for. It's for things we can't really kill normally, and also it gives us a little bit more red in the deck because we do play red cards at level 1, 2, and 3 for the most part. And then the level 2s we have here, we have one of the anti-change counter, basically 2/5 counter. Pay 2, kill one of your characters, and then kill one of their characters that are higher than their level. This card's good at dodging on reverse effects and stuff at level 3, and then occasionally plussing really hard off of opponents' early plays if they get a little greedy at level 2. Next, we have the level support there. Right next to it, it's 500 times the level of a character, which helps us on some of level 3s when we needed extra power to win. But it has a secondary effect of when you play a climax, you can give a character 2k. This at level 2 helps our Minamis get even bigger, so they can fight at level 2 if there are level 3s and stuff out there, especially when you have that card in combination with a secondary buff of 2k to another character. You can get some cards really, really big, and so generally you can basically beat most things power wise at level 1 or at level 2 with this card on the field. We do only run one of it, which is sometimes I think a little bit clunky, but from my playtesting it hasn't been that bad, and most of the time when we don't get it, we're not really searching for it, but it is a card that you have to think about holding on to early in the game if you do draw it early. Finally, the main reason I played this build over the newer TP build after the restriction list is this 2/3 event counter. It's if you have 2 blue and 2 red characters on the field, you can play this card, otherwise you can't. It's basically pay 3, pick one of your opponent's characters and rest it. This card is really good because it just makes it really awkward for your opponent to attack, especially if they know you run it at level 3. It's really hard for them to decide the right attack order. They can't just slam a bunch of climax combos at 3 and pray for all of them to go off or whatever, because you gotta deny one of them, which is great. You also deny your opponent 1 extra stock late into the game. That could be very, very crucial if they can only have 2 stock instead of 3 going into their next turn if you don't kill them the following turn, because then they can only play 1 level 3, or they can't play any counters that require 3 stock, like was it TLR, I believe, has a 3/3 counter and stuff like that. It's just a really good card and catches a lot of people off surprise. Next, we'll move on to the level 3 game. Level 3 game's fairly standard except for the additional Ronkos instead of the combo most people run in this type of deck. They usually run the gate combo instead. So we play 2 Rin and 2 Anzus. They're there for early plays at level 2. Because we don't have the perfect milling options like we had before, it's actually better for us to just run 2 and 2. In my opinion, for the early play level 3s, they're both really good, really strong and really good. They both come into play heal early, so you can stay a little bit longer at level 2, and they both get extra power and special effects for having the extra power, which is really great. So it makes it really awkward for your opponent to be able to beat your level 2 game if you're playing a bunch of these level 3s. Unfortunately, your opponent can anti-level 3 them or whatever, or anti-higher level them with their counters, which can be kind of annoying at times. But with the Rin early play from Transient Pulse Rin, you can always attack with that one first, and they can't use backups and stuff, so it makes it so at least they can't kill your level 3 before you attack and deny you damage that turn from it. They'd have to wait till another character attacks to be able to do it, since it does, if it's in the center slot, it does gain. This card can't, during battle with this card, your opponent can't play backups from their hand or counters. Next, we kind of move on to our finishers of choice, basically. In this case, we have Ronco and Anastasia. Anastasia is generally in every blue version of the deck, especially now in the new version of Triad Primus or TP. People are playing Anastasia instead of Power Smile or Rin for the most part, because because taking out the Rin top check 4, add 1 to hand, discard the rest, kind of sucks a lot in that deck, since with that card you get to have a lot of deck manipulation. So people have been playing Anastasia instead. So we play the Ronco and the Anastasia. I chose this combination instead of the red level 3, the double striker, because my back row for the most part is always going to be double red, so that guarantees us 2 red already, and then we're looking to have more level 3s that are blue, so it makes our counter live more often, and then it puts that fear into our opponent once they know you have it. Also comes into play heal, which is always great, and then the climax combo, though, is like pretty RNG. It does cost nothing to do, and in the cases where you do attack with it and mill nothing, that's like 5 damage you've removed from your deck, which is still pretty good. The only fringe cases this card can totally screw you is if you like reveal 5 climaxes and you just facepalm, because the next turn you're just going to eat everything. I really like the combination too of Book in the deck when you do run really good events. Normally, I absolutely hate Book and would play anything else but Book, because I've had so many experiences of Book Gate on immediate refresh that I just want to kill myself. But in this case, it's pretty decent whenever you run events. Like, the only decks I kind of look at to play Book in, if there's a strong climax combo with it, are of decks that run a lot of good events, or things that you really want to draw that you can't search or salvage easily. Finally, we have the one of support Minami. In some cases, we want that extra power and the abilities that our opponent can't play any backups or anything like that. And then the last effect for it, it also helps us dig for climax if we need it. But the last effect that's the crucial part for the card is that whenever a character goes from waiting room to field, you can give a character 1 soul. So you can set up precise damage when you do the Anastasia double strike combo and things like that. And then so our climax spread is 4 and 4 of Booking and Blue Gate, of course. The way that the deck is set out, I really like how consistent this deck is. I've never had a moment where I was like, darn, I can't play the climax combo that I want to play, because of how much swapping between climaxes the deck has and how much digging the deck has. It makes it very hard to mess up and not be able to play the combo you want to play when you want to play it, which is, I think, the biggest part about running this deck, or like the reason you would try to pick this deck over the newer TP, is because of how consistent it is to pick up your combo when you need it. So this is the whole deck again, just so you guys get one final look. The games I've played it, every time I've played the 2-3 event counter, my opponent has basically cried. And people always forget this counter exists because the condition on it's kind of annoying, unlike some of the older versions of this counter. And then the deck is fairly consistent with the combos, like I've been saying. which makes it so great. And I've never in a situation where I have to really run anything into, because power wise this deck can kind of match most of the bigger decks too, with the small text and stuff in here that we have to build power at level 1 and so forth. So if you guys have any questions about this deck or anything like that, just go ahead and leave it in the comment. And then don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, or whatever. If you guys have any ideas for videos you want to see, or certain deck profiles you'd like to see, just go ahead and leave that in the comment. I'll try to get whatever content you guys really want to see the most. And then I believe in about a week or so or less, I'll be having all my cases of Konosuba will be coming in. So I'll probably do opening of some sort and just post it on the channel. And I'll also be streaming the opening. I have to open like 5 cases worth of Konosuba, and so I plan to build the deck and everything, and hopefully max rarity it and everything right from the start. I'm also planning to do a collaboration with a good friend of mine on a Konosuba set review, so hopefully that works. If not, then I'll just be doing it by myself most likely. But hopefully that'll come out pretty soon. I don't know when the set review will happen. It might come after, like 1 week after the release of Konosuba. That gives us time to look at the set and everything. I am going to SakuraCon though, so I might delay it a little bit more. But I'm a firm believer of I can't really evaluate any cards in the set until the full list is out. Even though for the most part, certain cards you'll see are just going to be too good not to be playing in the deck. But it's better to see everything and what options you have first, and then give us some time to play test before we can really evaluate the set and discuss how good the set is, or if it's complete garbage. Hopefully it's not, since I really like Konosuba. Anyway guys, have a good night.